This has been my main travel tripod for about 2 years now. And for most part, this never left my bag when traveling. But there are some shortcomings that were getting slightly in the way of me filming or taking photos, and I actually wrecked a camera because of this one. It's more of an user error, but I need something more idiot-proof. That's why I started looking around and see what's on the market. And annoyingly, most of the tripods were either way too heavy or way too expensive. I love what Potato Jet is doing with a small rig, but it's way out of my price range. However, Falcam came out with their new Treeroot tripod, and I was very keen to try it out. So I've reached out to Falcam to see if for a small creator like me they would make an exception and send one for free, just to test it out, and they agreed. And like with everything else on my channel, if I don't like the product, I will let you know, because again, it's a freebie, but in the same time, I've got no business in recommending things that don't work. And I'm a great believer of products, especially the more expensive ones, to be working straight out of the box and being reliable. And the Common, as I've mentioned, was great to some extent, and I'll explain the shortcomings. At least for me, I've filmed in pretty windy and nasty scenarios with weather and changes all the time, so I need something a little bit more sturdy. I'll dive into that in a second. But rest assured, if there's anything wrong with this one, I'll definitely let you know. One of the things I like the most are those leg locking mechanisms. All you have to do is twist them, voila, and then just tighten them up. It's like a third of a spin, so you don't have to keep spinning them around. Locked. That easy. Boom, job's a good one. I fully agree with the usability of tripods. If it's too much hassle to set them up, we often leave them in our bag, because it just feels like a cumbersome part of the process. Whereas this one's fairly easy. Now, the big part here is the locking mechanism on the Falcam T38, which uses the same plate as your backpack clip and pretty much takes any Arca Swiss plate, even the bigger ones. All you have to do is just place the plate like so, push it down, and it just clips in. This is so much better, easier, faster, but also more secure than the tightening up systems. And to release that, all you have to do is just pull on that little toggle here, comes out. That easy. By the way, this guy is what started my obsession with cameras. It's, I think, 16 years old now. Still works. My daughter's using it to learn how to use manual mode on cameras. But oh my God, this is a piece of history. And like with any tripod nowadays, this is fully adjustable. I mean, you can go super low on this, depending on the terrain you're using. So if there's a little hill on one side, you can just adjust the legs, that easy. Then they clip in back into their own position. That little hook over here allows you to hang a backpack. So if it's windy and you want to keep this sturdy in one place without collapsing like I did with my previous camera, you can just hang a weight on the bottom of this to prevent it from happening. So normally, what you got in most tripods is that little adjustment knob here that moves this element here to tighten it up around your Arca Swiss plate. So you just slide it in and tighten this guy up. The problem is that after a while, especially when you start moving it around using the fluid head, this gets loosened up, and after a while, this starts sliding out like crazy. And I know you should be checking up on this every so often, or even when you're starting to adjust things, you can just by accident touch that. And if you're doing static shots, obviously that might not be an issue for you, but I do move my camera a lot, I move my tripods a lot, and I need something that's fully locked in when I'm using it. Even if you look at the thickness of the legs, you can tell that a Falcam is sturdier, but it's also heavier, and I'll dive into the weight differences when we'll get back to the studio. Even the center column that pops up is way sturdier than on the Common 0Y. Now, of course, these two tripods have slightly different applications. For my usage, the Falcam F38 is just better because of the sturdiness, and I'm not really that bothered by the weight. I don't think this is gonna come as a big surprise if I'll say that I really like this tripod. Apart maybe from the weight, and also it is a tad larger than my standard 0Y that I've been traveling with for so long. Now, the weight difference is about 400 grams. If you're traveling with all the gear, if I'm doing one of my big kitesurfing trips, I'm taking with me like 40-60 kilograms of equipment anyway. So those 400 grams play a very little role in my packing. However, if I'm just going with a backpack, it's a quick city break, I don't think that this would go with me. I think I would still go with a 0Y just because of those 400 grams. It's 400 grams extra clothes. If you're down to one backpack, that might be an issue. Or typically, if I'm just traveling for a quick trip, I take one of these guys, the Mantis Pro, or I stick with my all good Joby, or Job, I think Job. Joby in Scottish means yeah, so we're gonna stick to Job. And the size difference, well, here you go. It is a little bit longer, and it really depends on the size of your backpack. This, however, is a bit of a marvel when it comes to build quality. From small things like the fact that those rubber legs on the bottom can be removed, and you've got tiny spikes to put in the ground, and they just snap back on. The fact that this center column comes apart just with a quick release. So you just press on this little button here, and it just folds apart, and then you clip it back on. Dead simple. You can also reverse the column upside down if you really want to get these super close to the ground shots. And it can hold pretty heavy loads. This is 2.5 kilos, but it can hold up to 5 kilograms of gear. What's really surprising to see on a travel tripod is that you've got adjustments for dampening both the pan but also the ball head itself. The pan dampening is just here. It's just a little knob that you can screw both ways to make it tighter or looser, and the ball head is being adjusted by this cool and very clicky knob here. That allows you to make it super loose or go the other way to make it more resistant to movements. If you're already into Ulanzi ecosystem and you've got F38 plates or any other Arcasus plates as we demonstrated earlier, you probably have a couple of other accessories like these magic arms that just clip in onto the side of the tripod, so you can add extra lights, microphone, whatever you need to be hanging off the side. If you're traveling with just one pack, you just want this equipment to be a little bit more compact. If you're shooting in an environment I do, which is typically windy and nasty, then having a sturdier tripod is definitely a must. However, if you're seeing yourself hiking a lot during your trips, or you're very limited for the space, the Ulanzi 0Y is still a stellar choice. It's a great tripod, apart from a couple of shortcomings, but again, just not be a numpty like me, and check if everything is tightened up before you start shooting. Is this the best tripod on the market? I mean, in this price range of about $500, I think it's $499 for the Falcam F38 right now. It is a pretty good deal for a carbon tripod from a very good company. Typically, for similar features, you're looking closer to $1,000. Now, I do trash my tripods quite a bit, and I don't see myself spending that much. I've had that Ulanzi for about 2 years now, I would say, and it's still going strong. I have zero issues with it, and I've made a review on that one before. Great tripod. So I'm guessing that this will be just as robust, if not better. The backpack clip is one of those things that always travel with me as well. It's just that convenient to have it as a quick release, just sitting there instead of using the strap. And by the way, I left a couple of links below to all the gear that has been featured here. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide whether that extra spend over the 0Y is worth it, whether you need something super light and portable, where the 0Y would be a better choice, or something more sturdy like the Falcam F38. And with tons of other accessories for the F38 plate, this is pretty good ecosystem to get hooked into. If you have any questions about this tripod or 0Y or anything else, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. That's it from me. Have a good one.